You are just a low-life cable monkey. Now, get the hell out of my sight. The heavy, metallic mechanical keyboard flies through the freezing air of the server room, hurled with absolute malice. It spins violently, heading straight for the face of an exhausted, quiet IT worker, standing alone in the dim light. But right before that cold metal shatters his glasses and draws blood. We need to freeze this exact moment. If you truly believe that the arrogant elites who wear $5,000 suits, while stealing the sweat and blood of honest, hardworking people, will eventually face the most brutal punishment, type "I believe in karma" down in the comments right now. Type it as a declaration of your own fearless mindset. To stand your ground before we expose this absolute monster. Let us rewind the clock. To exactly 3 weeks before this explosive night. Welcome to the towering glass headquarters of a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, a place where the air itself feels heavy with greed and unchecked power. On the 80th floor, bathed in the golden light of the afternoon sun, sits Marcus, the chief financial officer. Marcus is the epitome of the toxic elite. A man who looks down on anyone who doesn't have a trust fund or an Ivy League degree. To him, the thousands of employees working below his penthouse office are nothing more than disposable peasants. But behind his perfectly tailored suits and his arrogant smirk, Marcus is hiding a massive, filthy secret. For months, he has been quietly siphoning highly sensitive customer data, packaging it up in the dead of night, and selling it to their biggest overseas competitor, for millions of dollars in untraceable crypto accounts. He is a corporate trader of the highest order, risking the livelihoods of every single person in the building, just to pad his already overflowing bank accounts. To cover his digital tracks, Marcus needs a scapegoat. Someone he can bully, manipulate, and eventually throw under the bus when the FBI comes knocking. Enter David, a newly hired, incredibly quiet network technician, who spends his days down in the windowless basement of the IT department. David doesn't look like a threat to anyone. He wears faded plaid shirts, cheap sneakers, and thick glasses, always keeping his head down and doing exactly as he is told. He is a man of few words, choosing to walk the talk through his relentless work ethic, rather than bragging in the break room. Marcus targets David immediately, recognizing him as the perfect victim, because of his humble background. The abuse starts slowly, but quickly escalates into a daily routine of psychological torture. Marcus constantly summons David to the top floor, just to humiliate him in front of the board members. He deliberately spills hot espresso on the floor and orders David to clean it up, laughing as the technician gets down on his knees. He mocks David's background with a venomous tongue, sneering at his calloused hands. He actually tells David that he belongs back in the mud, growing vegetables and raising fish, not polluting the pristine air of a billion-dollar tech hub. Marcus has no idea that there is a profound, undeniable dignity in working the soil and raising a family with honest hands, a true wealth that his dirty money could never buy. He just sees a weak, pathetic target. Every single day, Marcus forces David to bypass security protocols, demanding he open back doors into the financial databases, under the guise of urgent system audits. He makes David work 20-hour shifts without a single cent of overtime pay, threatening to fire him and ruin his career if he dares to complain to HR. David takes it all in absolute silence. He never raises his voice, he never cries, and he never fights back. He just nods, adjusts his glasses, and types away at his terminal, absorbing the toxic insults like a sponge. His coworkers whisper behind his back, calling him a coward, wondering why a grown man would let himself be treated worse than a stray dog. But they don't know the truth about David. They don't know that his silence is not born out of fear, but out of a terrifying, calculated patience. David is a fast learner, a man who observes every single detail, every keystroke, and every encrypted file transfer that Marcus carelessly leaves behind. While Marcus is busy drinking champagne and plotting his early retirement, David is meticulously collecting the digital breadcrumbs. He is building a mountain of undeniable, catastrophic evidence against the arrogant CFO, piece by piece, log by log. As the days turn into weeks, Marcus becomes increasingly paranoid, realizing that the annual corporate security audit is fast approaching. He knows he needs to wipe the central mainframe's memory entirely, to erase the massive data leaks he orchestrated. And he intends to force his favorite punching bag to pull the trigger. This brings us to the night of the incident. A Friday evening when the entire building is empty, save for the hum of the cooling fans in the subterranean server room. Marcus corners David in the freezing basement, locking the heavy steel door behind them. The air is thick with tension, as Marcus orders David to log into the root directory with his personal IT credentials. This is the ultimate trap. If David executes the deletion command, his ID will be forever linked to the destruction of the company's core data, making him the sole suspect in a multi-million-dollar federal crime. Marcus is planning to frame a hard-working father, to destroy a family, just to save his own skin. If you have ever had to deal with a boss who tried to steal your credit or blame you for their own failures, you know exactly how suffocating this moment feels. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join our community of truth seekers, because we are about to watch the ultimate downfall of a corporate tyrant. David stares at the blinking cursor on the screen, his hands hovering over the keyboard. For the first time in 3 weeks, he stops. He doesn't type. He doesn't obey. He slowly turns his chair around, looks directly into the furious eyes of the billionaire CFO, and calmly says the one word Marcus never expected to hear. No. The silence in the server room becomes absolutely deafening. Marcus blinks, his brain completely short-circuiting for a second. In his decades of ruthlessly climbing the corporate ladder, no one, especially not a low-level tech employee, has ever dared to look him in the eye and defy a direct order. A dark, twisted rage begins to bubble up inside the CFO's chest, turning his face a violent shade of crimson. "Excuse me? What did you just say to me? You pathetic little peasant." Marcus sneers, taking a step closer, his expensive cologne mixing with the sterile smell of ozone and running hard drives. David doesn't flinch. He doesn't look down. He remains seated, projecting an aura of unshakable confidence that completely throws Marcus off balance. "I said no," David repeats, his voice calm, clear, and surprisingly charismatic. "I will not delete those transaction logs. I am not going to be a party to your corporate espionage, Marcus. And I am certainly not going to let you frame me for it." The air is sucked out of the room. Marcus's eyes go wide, with a mixture of shock and sheer panic. How could this nobody possibly know about the overseas accounts? How could he know the exact term? Corporate espionage. But the panic quickly morphs into desperate, violent anger. Marcus lunges forward, grabbing the collar of David's cheap flannel shirt, pulling him violently out of the chair. "Listen to me very carefully, you insignificant worm." Marcus spits, spittle flying onto David's glasses. "I am a god in this building. I can crush you with a single phone call. I will make sure you never work in this industry again. I will bankrupt your entire family. I will take away your home, your stupid little garden where you grow vegetables, your fish tanks. Everything. Your kids will starve on the streets because of your stupidity tonight." It is the ultimate threat. A disgusting display of elite privilege, attempting to crush a hard-working father under its boot. But what Marcus fails to understand is that he is dealing with a man who possesses a mindset completely foreign to the toxic corporate world. David is someone who has never been afraid of failure. He is an incredibly fast learner, a man who believes in walking the talk, and someone who has spent his entire life building true, honest financial freedom for his family, not stealing it from others. He is a father who raises his children with passion, teaching them to stand up to bullies, no matter how much money those bullies have in the bank. David calmly reaches up and peels Marcus's trembling fingers off his shirt, one by one. "You cannot take away what you do not understand," David says, brushing his collar off with quiet dignity. This absolute refusal to be intimidated completely breaks Marcus's fragile ego. The CFO loses his mind. He spins around, looking for anything to destroy, anything to assert his dominance. His eyes land on the heavy, custom-built mechanical keyboard, resting on the main diagnostic console. With a primal scream, Marcus grabs the heavy metal keyboard and swings around. You are just a lowlife cable monkey. Now get the hell out of my sight. This is it. The exact moment we witnessed at the very beginning of this story. The heavy metal object flies through the air, aimed directly at David's head. Intended to cause serious physical harm, intended to silence the one man standing in the way of $1 billion crime. If your blood is boiling watching this arrogant, corrupt executive resort to physical violence, just because he couldn't manipulate an honest man, I need you to drop whatever you are doing and type "I believe in karma" in the comments right now. Let your voice be heard in defense of every person who has ever been pushed around by a toxic boss. And hit that subscribe button to join our family of truth seekers. The keyboard flies closer. Any normal person would duck, cower, or raise their hands in terror. But David is not a normal tech worker, with reflexes that suggest years of intense, high-pressure training. David simply shifts his weight, and casually steps to the left. The heavy metal keyboard misses his face by mere inches, and smashes violently into the concrete wall behind him, shattering into a dozen pieces. Keycaps scatter across the floor. Like broken teeth. Marcus stands there, panting heavily, his chest heaving, staring in absolute disbelief at the man who just dodged his attack. Without breaking a single drop of sweat. The dynamic in the room instantly shifts. The prey has just revealed that he was never prey to begin with. David reaches up to his face. Slowly, deliberately. He takes off his thick, smudged glasses. Without the bulky frames, the illusion of the timid, submissive IT guy instantly vanishes. His posture straightens. His shoulders square up, and the look in his eyes changes from quiet endurance to absolute, chilling authority. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out his smartphone, tapping the screen once to wake it up. "You know, Marcus," David says, his voice now echoing with power in the silent room. "You were right about one thing. I do not belong in the basement." Marcus takes a step back. A cold, icy dread finally pooling in his stomach, as he realizes he has made a catastrophic miscalculation. Who the hell are you?" Marcus stammers. His arrogant facade completely crumbling away. David holds up the thick glasses. Right in the center of the bridge, completely invisible to the naked eye, a tiny red LED light is blinking steadily. "My name is David Vance," he says. A charismatic smile finally breaking across his face. "And I am a senior forensic auditor for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, secretly contracted by your own board of directors." The words hit Marcus like a freight train. "For the past 3 weeks," David continues, his voice cutting through the freezing air, "this custom-built camera has been recording every single insult, every single threat, and every single time you forced me to bypass security protocols. It has captured every illegal data transfer you made to your offshore accounts. It even recorded you confessing to corporate espionage, just 2 minutes ago. And the best part? It has not been saving to a local drive. It has been live streaming directly to a secure, encrypted federal cloud server, since the moment I walked into this building." Marcus's legs give out. He stumbles backward, completely pale, gripping the edge of a server rack just to stay on his feet. The untouchable billionaire CFO has just been outsmarted, outplayed, and completely destroyed by the very man he spent weeks treating like garbage. Everything Marcus built, the penthouses, the sports cars, his entire elite identity, is burning to the ground right before his eyes. And it was all brought down by a man who prefers the quiet joy of a home garden over the corrupt hustle of Wall Street. But David is not finished yet. The true karma, the absolute, brutal justice, is about to be delivered. David looks down at his phone, his thumb hovering over a large red button on the screen labeled "Execute Protocol." Before pressing the button, David takes a moment to look at the trembling, pathetic shell of a man in front of him. "You thought power was about how loudly you could yell, or how much money you could steal in the dark," David says softly, yet every word strikes like a hammer. "But true power is discipline. It is the ability to learn, to grow, and to build a life of genuine freedom, without stepping on the throats of others. You are nothing but a thief in a tailored suit, Marcus. And your time is officially up. The sheer weight of reality crashes down on Marcus. He realizes that all his money cannot buy his way out of federal cloud evidence. He looks at the broken keyboard on the floor, the physical proof of his assault, and he begins to hyperventilate. If you are ready to see this arrogant elite lose absolutely everything in a spectacular fashion, type "I believe in karma" in the comments to seal his fate, before we witness the ultimate downfall. Marcus stares at the red button on David's phone screen, as if it is a loaded weapon, pointed directly at his chest. The loud rhythmic humming of the server racks suddenly feels like a ticking countdown. In the freezing basement. "Please," Marcus whispers. The arrogance completely drained from his voice, replaced by a pathetic and desperate squeak. "You do not have to do this, David. We can talk about this like reasonable men. I have money. I have so much money." David does not even blink. He just watches the billionaire CFO unravel, watching the mask of elite superiority melt away, to reveal the cowardly thief underneath. "I can give you $5 million right now," Marcus stammers, his hands shaking violently as he reaches for his own phone. $10 million. In untraceable crypto. You can retire tomorrow. You can buy a massive farm, you can grow all the vegetables and raise all the fish you want. You can have true financial freedom. You can send your kids to the best private schools. Just press cancel. Please, I am begging you. It is a sickening display. The man who just 10 minutes ago called David a lowlife peasant, who threatened to bankrupt his family and throw his children onto the streets, is now on his knees on the cold concrete floor, crying and begging for mercy. This is exactly what happens when the corrupt elites realize that their money and their titles can no longer protect them from the consequences of their own actions. David looks down at Marcus, his expression completely unreadable, but radiating an inspiring aura of absolute integrity. "You still do not get it, do you?" David says, his voice cutting through the hum of the servers. "You think everyone has a price. You think every single person in this world is just as greedy, just as morally bankrupt as you are." David leans down, bringing his face inches away from Marcus's tear-stained cheeks. "My family does not need your dirty money to be happy, Marcus. We build our wealth with honest work and a positive mindset. We sleep soundly at night. And my kids will go to great schools because they are smart and hardworking, not because their father sold out his integrity to protect a criminal. I am not afraid of failure, and I am certainly not afraid of you." With one smooth, deliberate motion, David's thumb presses down on the red execute protocol button. For a split second, nothing happens. Then, Marcus's phone, still clutched in his trembling hand, erupts with a blinding flurry of notifications. Ding, ding, ding. The sounds echo off the metal walls like a death knell. Marcus looks down at his screen, his eyes widening in absolute horror. First, it is an alert from his primary bank. Account frozen pending federal investigation. Then, another notification from his offshore brokerage. Assets seized by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Then, a system-wide email from the board of directors, automatically triggered by David's protocol, notifying the entire company that the CFO has been terminated effective immediately, for gross misconduct, corporate espionage, and workplace assault. In less than 10 seconds, Marcus loses absolutely everything. His power, his reputation, his multi-million-dollar fortune, wiped out by a single keystroke. From the man he treated like garbage. "No, no, no, no," Marcus screams, frantically tapping his screen, trying to log into his crypto wallets, only to be met with red error messages across the board. He drops his phone and grabs his hair, letting out a guttural sob that sounds more like a wounded animal than a high-powered executive. Suddenly, the heavy steel door of the server room violently bursts open. The deafening sound of heavy boots hitting the concrete floor floods the room. FBI. Nobody move. Half a dozen federal agents storm into the basement, tactical flashlights cutting through the dim lighting. They bypass David completely, heading straight for the sobbing billionaire on the floor. Marcus is roughly pulled to his feet, his custom-tailored suit tearing at the shoulder, as cold steel handcuffs are violently slapped onto his wrists. You have the right to remain silent. A towering agent barks right into Marcus's ear, spinning him around to face the wall. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As Marcus is dragged out of the server room, kicking and crying, completely humiliated in front of the flashing red and blue lights of the police cruisers waiting outside the glass lobby, David simply picks up his broken glasses from the floor. He places them in his pocket, turns off the main console, and walks out of the building into the cool night air, ready to go home to his family. If you felt a wave of absolute satisfaction watching that arrogant billionaire get dragged out in handcuffs, then you understand the true power of justice. But now, I have to ask you a serious question. I need you to look deep inside yourself, and answer this honestly. Imagine you were in David's shoes. Imagine you had that hidden camera, and you had the billionaire on his knees, offering you $10 million in untraceable cash, to just walk away and let him continue stealing. Would you have the absolute iron willpower to press that red button and destroy his empire, knowing you might face retaliation from his powerful friends? Or would you secretly take the $10 million, justify it to yourself, and walk away to live a life of luxury? It is a terrifying moral dilemma, isn't it? Do not lie to yourself. Tell me exactly what you would do in the comments right now. Would you take the bribe? Or would you press the button? And if you are one of the rare few who would sacrifice millions to see a corrupt tyrant fall, then type "I believe in karma" one last time, to prove that your soul is not for sale. Hit that subscribe button, because the world needs more fearless people like you. We will be back with another story of brutal justice very soon.